out, how way, ay, 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 ay. How we out, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. How way, ay, 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 ay. How way, ay, 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 ay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Bridge. I'm your host, Kira Young, and you've reached me on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we are simulcasting tonight with Real Liberty Media, Channel 3. You can check us out in either place. It's the 13th of August, 2016, and it's 4 in the afternoon on the East Coast. And tonight, we are continuing the series that I've been doing, interviewing the DJs from KBHR. And tonight, we have our only woman at KBHR. And so we're going to find out how she got there and what's going on. So I'm going to give her a call and we'll see.
Hello?
Carly Ree, welcome to The Bridge.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kara. Nice to finally hear you.
Yeah, so we've had a few shows with some of your co-hosts, and your show is called Roots with Ree, and it comes on Mondays. What time on Monday evening?
9 p.m. Eastern on Mondays.
And you are the only woman DJ at KBHR.
That is correct. Currently, I am the only female DJ.
How did that happen? Why do you think that is?
Well, just in general, I know that radio and DJs, there's not normally a lot of women just to pick from, I guess.
Yeah, it's true.
For whatever. And then how it actually happened, I used to tune in when Wolf had Rocktown Radio. And on Sundays, he would show the Northern Exposure episodes like he does on KBHR now. And so I would tune in to Rocktown on Sundays and hang out with Wolf and Chris and watch the episodes with them. And then, when they formed the idea for KBHR and Wolf posted that they were going to be looking for DJs, I was like, I want to give it a shot.
So, but it seems like it's still a thing that you have to push yourself to do. Like you stretch yourself a little further this time maybe than some of the other things you've tried.
Possibly, yeah, just because I really enjoy it and I want to be better at it, but sometimes I'm, just kind of still learning. I'm such a newbie. I mean, I went to college for radio and I did actually the morning show in college, but I hadn't had such a broad audience as I do with KBHR, so I guess it seems a little more intense than it did back then.
Right. Yeah, and it's a whole different setup now, too, I'm sure, that you're using.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's a software that Wolf has us download based on, whether we do I'm on a Mac, and I think maybe Jake's on a Mac too, or Whip, I should say, is on a Mac, but then Jeff and Wolf and Smokey, I think, are all on PCs, so...
Yeah, I was saying before I never considered being in radio just because I never really saw that many women in radio, so I didn't consider it. And then I just decided one day to try it, that I would probably be good at it, and it just happened. It's weird like that. I didn't go to school for it, though.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I did, but I mean, mainly because I actually wanted to go to school for film. I was and still am way into movies and film, but where I went to school, it was a state school and they didn't really have like a film program per se. It was kind of like TV and radio, and that was pretty much it. Some schools have I guess they call it RTF, where it's radio, television, film, but they didn't really have the film part where I went to school, so it was really just radio and TV. So, and I was also just kind of a communications major too, so it all merged together.
Yeah. I went to school for philosophy.
Nice.
I was going to teach college, but that's a whole nother thing that's really hard for women to get into is teaching college professors or most of
right at the college level.
Yeah, most of the tenured professors are male. It's really hard to get tenured, and it's a really, really tough gig. Maybe probably as tough as radio.
Could be, could be. I mean, it's all, I suppose it really just depends on the person. Some things come really naturally to certain people, and some things take a bit more oomph.
Yeah, and you got to know the right people too. So,
oh, it's definitely all about networking. And, you know, as my mom used to tell me my whole life, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's become more and more clear for me every day.
so when you meet people and they find out you have a radio show, how do you describe it to them, your own show?
Well, basically, you know, of course, I asked them, you know, if they're familiar with Northern Exposure, because to me, a big part of what KBHR is about, if not, you know, pushing 80+%, is Northern Exposure. I mean, I think you can totally get into it and be a fan and enjoy it, even if you've never watched the show, but I think you get an extra enjoyment out of it if you are familiar with the show. So that's a big part of what I do, is that, you know, ask if they're into Northern Exposure. If they're not, you know, maybe they kind of remember like a television show from that time that was, you know, maybe they saw a couple of episodes, but they weren't like, you know, huge hardcore fans like most of us are. And, you know, then I just tell them, basically I play, you know, different tunes and kind of talk in between, sometimes about Northern Exposure, sometimes not.
So, do you think that you focus in on a certain type of music, or do you think that you try to stretch out a lot of different things?
I find myself kind of sticking to genres that I'm a little more familiar with. I feel like I should branch out a little bit, but I also feel like it's got a variety. You know, it's not like just rock and roll or just soul or just country, or, you know, you're going to hear probably a few different styles of tunes, maybe even back to back. I mean, for me, I'm not probably as organized maybe as Wolf and Jeff and Smokey. You know, I feel like if you ask them, you know, what's on their playlist, they could pull it up, you know, for a mini day probably and give you the whole layout. And I really wouldn't. I'd have from the week that I did it, but I couldn't really tell you what order I do it in, or because I'm a little more fly by the seat of my pants in that respect. You know, like I do pick out all the songs beforehand, but I don't necessarily say I'm going to play them in a certain order. You know, it's like as I'm chatting and talking and hanging out with the people in the chat room at what we call Tranquility Base, or, you know, just then whatever strikes me, I'll be like, oh, well, maybe I should, you know, pop on this tune after this because we were just talking about it in the chat room. So it doesn't necessarily have a format, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And maybe that's a girl thing. Who knows? Because I never have a plan for this show either, because I want to make sure that I'm able to listen to what my guest is saying instead of thinking about, oh, I've got to make sure I say this or that. I do have ideas about what I want to know about that person, but sometimes I find out, if I'm just really open, I find out stuff that I didn't think I wanted to know, you know, because I had no idea.
Right.
You
exactly.
know, no idea at all. But with your show, I hear music that I've never heard before in every show. So I get to discover new music every time.
That makes me feel wonderful, because that's definitely part of what I'm pushing is, you know, it's like I love to hear that. I mean, when Matt's one of the guys that hangs out in the chat room. He's my friend. Hello, Matt. He's one of the fellow Sicilians. Yep, Matt. And, you know, sometimes he'll leave the show and he'll be like, I just found 3 new artists I'd never heard of tonight. And I'm like, woo! Like, you know, I think to me, that's part of, again, even with Northern Exposure, that's what it's all about. You know, it's like you'd watch an episode of Northern Exposure and you'd hear a tune that either maybe you hadn't heard in forever, or maybe it was an artist, you know, doing a tune that was a cover of a song that you were like, oh, I didn't know they had that, you know, I'd never heard that version of that song or whatever it may be. And I just think that makes it more fun for me. You know, it's like in my own way, it's kind of educational. I'm not as savvy per se as with music history as a lot of the other DJs are. So for me, it's I'm learning with everyone. You know, it's like I'll come up. I mean, I may have just come across that artist, you know, earlier that morning when I was, you know, piddling about getting ready for work, and I'm like, oh, I'll throw that song in there, you know. So it may be as new to me as it is to all of you.
Which is great. Yeah, and that's what I do too, is that I'm learning with my guests. So I'm stretching myself and hopefully my audience too. I mean, I did a whole series on rap artists, indie rap artists, which is like the furthest thing from what I would normally listen to, but I met some of them and they're really nice people, and they were, you know, really concerned about being creative, and I felt a poetic vibe from them. And as a fellow poet, I thought, well, I'll give these guys a chance, and it worked out.
It does work because, I mean, the more you interact with everybody and the more you open your mind, I mean, you can't help but learn. And to me, I mean, that's kind of the point of being alive every day. I mean, if I go through a day and I didn't learn something, or I didn't, you know, hear something new, then it's like, well, what was I awake for? I might have found something newer in my dreams.
Right.
And
so all the DJs at KBHR have day jobs, and do you find that when things maybe get stressful at work or your day job, you're like, before I know it, I'll be back in the tranquility base and everything will be cool again?
Yes, it is a great comfort to know that KBHR is there, and that normally, even if, you know, it's just auto, you know, the auto streaming or the auto stream playing, I'll still pop into the base even if I'm there by myself. You know, I'll log in sometimes at work, sometimes at home, and, you know, even when there's not a live show. And who knows, you may run into another Cicely and they're just hanging out too, just enjoying the tune, and then you get to talking, and then, you know, that's one of the things I really look forward to. I enjoy it. It's a comfort, you know. Mm-hmm. It's a happy place. It's like a safe, happy place.
and as we've mentioned before in other shows, Otto has his own personality, and I'll find my husband in there having whole conversations with Otto. Greetings, Otto. You know, good morning. What's up? Or what are you doing?
Exactly.
Doing up so late?
Right. He's got his own personality too, for sure. Just like how kind of the way everybody says, you know, Cicely is its own character in Northern Exposure. You know, I mean, not like the character Cicely that
the town
was the founder of the town, but the town itself. Yeah.
Yeah, which is true, and it's also like a spirit, or you know, I'm not going to go as far as to say a way of life, but sort of an orientation or a way of looking at things, I guess.
I agree.
Yeah. So do you think you're just going to keep on doing your Monday show, or do you have plans to expand what you're doing, or where do you see
Well,
yourself going?
I'm definitely going to stay on Mondays. I really like Mondays. I feel like it's a good kickoff for me, because Mondays can always have kind of this like, oh, you know, it is the start of your work week. And for me, it's like, you know, I go into work being like, all right, I'm going to come home and get to do my show, you know, after I get home from work. So for me, it starts off the week well. So I really dig having Mondays. But, you know, I'm sure I think there's going to be, I mean, maybe, you know, this is just me trying to like foresee the future in a way that I really can't. But when we do KBHR Live, I mean, I can't imagine that with all the DJs together, not just DJing, but I mean, all the time that we're going to, you know, in my opinion, need to have Otto on so we can like sit at the brick and have a beer. There's going to be a lot of brainstorming going on, you know, so there's going to be a lot of ideas, I feel like, floating about. So there's really no telling what's going to come next. I mean, we're all going to get to actually broadcast our own show from Cicely, and then we're all going to be broadcasting together from Cicely, and then, you know, in between getting to spend time with each other in person, which none of us have really done too much of. Some of us never having met each other. I've never got to meet Wolf before, you know. So, and getting to hang out at the brick and have a beer and, you know, talk KBHR and talk ideas. I feel like there's, you know, just limitless possibilities of who knows what we may come up with.
So when is this going to happen? Pretty soon?
Yeah. It's less than 40 days now. I think, well, so it's 40 days the other day, so it's probably like 39 days at this point, or 38. And so that'll put us there, I believe, like the third weekend of September. We're going to be there. It's like the 23rd through the 25th, most of us. And, yeah, so we're going to be there and broadcasting live from Cicely, KBHR. It's going to be pretty exciting. I know I'm stoked. That seems completely unreal to me, but I'm so looking forward to it.
Who knew? Like, back in 1990, whatever, when you were watching the show, that it would have become such a huge part of your life. And that's wild.
Well, certainly in this way, I mean, definitely in the way of KBHR, because, I mean, Northern Exposure has been definitely a part of my life since I was, I guess I was probably 11 when it was on air, and, I mean, when it started, and I was hooked even from, that age. I never missed an episode. While I had TV, there were some times in my life when I didn't have access to television, so I think I missed a couple of years there, here and there. But then it got rebroadcast on A&E, and I was watching it then, and, I, of course, had all of my DVD sets. So, I mean, all my friends who've ever come over to my house are like, oh, you've got Northern Exposure on again. It's like, I mean, if you're coming to visit me, that's probably what you're going to be doing, except now, in between taking a break from watching the show, you're going to be, tuned into KBHR.
I think last Sunday it was on, and there was an episode playing, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen this episode. And it really freaked me out because I thought I had seen every single episode, but I don't think I've really seen all of this. The last season, maybe, is where that episode came from. But I'm so used.
Oh, I'm not the sixth season. I'm not near as familiar. I actually was one of the last holdouts, I guess, if you from a certain viewpoint. It took me. I didn't actually watch. I owned the sixth season because somebody bought it for me, but I didn't open the package, and I practically refused to watch it because I didn't want it to end. It's like I'd get to like the end of the fifth season and I'd like restart at the first because I was like, no, if I haven't seen the sixth season, it's not really over. So I think, it was almost 2 years ago that I sat down and watched all of the sixth season.
Wow.
And finally, ended the show. Yeah, I announced it on Club NX. It was when Club NX, I think, still had like maybe less than 500 people. There wasn't a ton of us. It's really grown a lot since then. And, I posted a confession, I'm like, okay, I feel like I got to come clean with everybody. I haven't actually watched the sixth season, so it's really not over for me.
Yeah. Wow. That is hardcore.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that Ed's a more hardcore fan than me. But because we've been together for so long, it has also become a comfort to me. So like I know when he's playing it nonstop, he'll put on the DVDs or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, he's nesting. He's in a little nesting mood, right? Or phase.
Right.
Because he's put and things start getting reorganized and cleaned and whatever. Yeah. But at first I was like, it's kind of weird to watch it that much. But then I just accepted it because I started liking it, watching it that much, Yeah.
There's something about it. There is definitely something about it. I mean, there must be. It's been off the air for 25 years, and there's, still this following, and it's actually growing. I mean, there's new generations of people watching it that have never seen it for the first time. I see a lot of people, I used to anyway, I haven't seen it in a while, but there was maybe, I don't know, less than a year back, a lot of people were actually posting on, Northern Exposure that their kids were getting to the age where, they were starting to watch the show with them. And so they're like creating a whole new generation of fans. And then with, Darren doing this project that's potentially going to give us, 10 more new episodes and new characters and kind of like revitalizing Cicely
so that
in
you're
a whole
talking
new
about
way.
Darren Burroughs, the actor that played Ed Chigliak,
Ed Cicely, yeah.
has scripts already written and is trying to do another couple of shows or so?
Yeah, he's bringing back. Originally, I think the plan was to do maybe like a long kind of 2-hour, TV 2-part series or something thing maybe. But then once they went and had the talks, it looks like they, potentially got the opportunity to do 10 seasons, which is not 10 seasons, 10 episodes, which is, a little less than half a season. And it was more than, most people expected. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
Wow. That's really, really cool. I hope it gets to happen. And it's really, like a risky thing to do. But I think it's really worth the risk too at the same time. So I'm glad that he's doing it. Really glad.
I agree. I think, especially with, how much of the cast that's still willing to be a part of it. And then also he had, which I thought was a genius idea, they had all the people who contributed to the, GoFundMe or whatever, however the campaign was collecting the money for, to pitch the idea to begin with. All of the people that did that got to have, what they called a shout off or something. And they, got to contribute their opinion of what they think might have happened to certain characters. And, there was a lot of questions. So they got, hundreds of people's, really passionate fans' ideas of, where they kind of, in their mind, saw the show going. So, I mean, that alone will be, just worth it just to see, what ideas were spawned from all these hundreds of Sicilians coming together.
Wow. I'm excited. I didn't know all this stuff. It really didn't.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It took a while for Ed to convey the whole concept of K-Bear to me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I started hearing the shows that were on, because he had that playing, and we don't have TV, so all we do listen to is radio. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So I'm hooked myself now, and I look forward to hearing it every day. And I've gotten a lot of my friends listening as well, and coming into the chat, and it's also got a very, from what the feedback that I've got from people from other countries is that it feels very American to them, as well as very Northern exposure. There's something very American about the just the way the station is run, or the way the sound of it, not just the accents,
right,
but just the way it's presented. If that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah. It's kind of Americana, it's kind of, it's stuff from all over, and some of it's a little kitschy, and some of it's a little, it's all kind of different, but still, uniquely American. I can definitely understand that, especially since, all the DJs, we all broadcast from a different place in America.
Right.
So that's,
and none of them are in Alaska, which is funny.
And none of them are in Alaska. Not yet.
But neither is Cicely, really.
Right. That's the thing. Cicely's a state of mind. So we're all in a certain way, similar mindsets. So I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, for us, it's, it's community, it's community radio. It's all about community. When we're hanging out in there, we're all catching up on each other's day, and, just kind of seeing how everybody's doing. And, if somebody's not doing well, we all kind of coordinate and, throw a little love their way. And that's just, it's really amazing. I'm certainly honored to be a part of it.
It is. It's great. And I enjoy hearing about people's lives and kids. And, last night's Friday night Buzz special, which was actually Jeff in the Morning coming on at night, and, Wolf's.
Right. Yeah, I heard Wolf had a campfire going.
Yeah, that was really cool. And my husband was just blasting the tunes, and it was really fun. A lot of people don't realize that if I'm not in the chat, I'm usually always listening anyway, because it's always on. Ed's always playing it, and Ed's always in the chat.
Yep.
He always catches me up.
I've always got it on. I mean, even if I'm not necessarily in the chat room, I definitely always have it on. That's kind of one of quite a few of us that do listen as regularly as you and Ed do. It's kind of like that. I'm always listening. Like, don't think just because you don't see me doesn't mean I'm not listening. There's plenty of us who are out there like that. I would say quite a few of us.
Yeah, I notice when people come into the chat from other countries, they also pick up on that American thing, and they're always like, "I love America." Like that's one of the first things they say when they come in there. You Americans, I love you. Northern exposure, because it is odd, but it's very cool. A bunch of strange people having fun, hanging out.
Yep. It takes all types, takes all kinds.
That's right.
What I say.
And it's also a real alternative to what's out there in internet radio. There's nothing like it out there in internet radio right now.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm not as internet radio savvy as I'm sure quite a few other people, but for me, there's definitely, I know it's unique. I mean, the personalities alone, it's like Jeff, it's just like, he's like a ball of sunshine, right? Like, how perfect is like a morning show with Jeff? Because, it's like you wake up and you're just like, all right, I'm good, and then, I have been loving Saturday morning since Smokey came on, and then, everybody wants to party with Wolf at night, and then, Whip's got just, Whip really goes, he's the youngest, of us, but he's still got, for lack of a better word, he's got a vast knowledge, for as young as we all associate with, him as being, I think he just turned 30.
Wow.
So, but he was on, still in his 20s, the young whippersnapper, so to speak.
Okay, so that's where the nickname comes from, huh?
I'm not sure if it does, but I know that a couple of us like to call him that on occasion. But in general, he's definitely whipbox. He's whipping up some wild jams. Some younger, kind of takes me back to different times, of music that I'd forgotten that I dug. That it's newer, but it's like, oh, I totally forgot about this song,
Yeah, yeah. The same with me when I listen to his show. And I haven't heard the Oscar Project as much as, because that comes on after with Fox, right, on Tuesdays, Tuesday nights.
It comes after Wolf TV.
Oh,
Wolf
okay.
Wednesdays. It's Wednesday night. Yeah. And it's been a while since I've tuned into the Oscar Project too. I must say I don't know where my evenings go. I swear it's like I get home from work and I like take the dog out and then I'm like having dinner and. Next thing I know, it's like, oh.
I remember that opening. I remember the opening to that show because it's very unique. His opening that he does.
Oh, the Oscar Project's opening?
Yeah. But, I fall asleep. I usually fall asleep.
But there's a lot of fun stuff on KBHR. And Wolf, like I said, I'm really stoked about getting to actually, be with the guys and like actually, do a little brainstorm, session and stuff. Cause I know that we all probably have, tons of ideas that we haven't really got to, all be together to talk about. But I just feel like there's going to be a lot more, who knows what, popping into up on KBHR because there's different things, it's like I do just like little, bits and pieces of different ideas I have, but some stuff I really think, hey man, I need to, because every now and then I'll say like I'm going to play a brick tune, and I keep meaning to do a whole brick playlist that's just like songs that I would think would be on the jukebox at the brick. Or, you know what I mean? But yeah, just different stuff like that where it's like, oh, and I'd like us all to to do it, you know, in a certain respect, but we haven't got together to like coordinate in, you know, in that kind of way yet. But once we do, I got some ideas. I got a notebook here. I'm excited.
You'd have to put Adam and the Ants in there, right? Because that one show with him in it, you'd have to at least have a couple of his tunes in there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and Heroes, when that comes down.
Yeah.
That's a great one. That's one of the more underrated ones, I think. I don't think people realize how great that one is until they see it, and then they're like, "Oh, that's right, I love this one." But you don't think of it, you know, when you think of like, there's somebody who's asked you your top 10 episodes of Northern Exposure, it might not be there, but then when somebody says it, you're like, "Oh man, maybe I should move that up the list."
Yeah. So, when you're doing your show and you've got your list going and there's people coming into the chat, does it matter to you if there's a bunch of people in there, or do you just have this attitude like whoever's supposed to be here is gonna be here, and it'll all be cool?
You know, I like it when there are. I mean, like it's exciting to see people come into the chat and like hang out. I mean, but I either way, I'm having a good time. Whether it's, you know, I mean, there were times because I was, I mean, technically I was the third DJ on KBHR, but for, I mean, pushing almost 6 months, it was just me and Wolf. I mean, we were the only ones. You know, we were the only DJs on the station, and so there were plenty of times that it would pretty much just be me and Wolf hanging out in the chat room, and you know, those are just as good times for me as, you know, if there's 20 people in there.
Yeah.
So.
But it's nice. Like I go back and forth sometimes where I'm like, I want to make sure it really gets out there it'll get to who it needs to get to, you know. People who need to hear it are going to hear it, and it's all good. But it's a balance.
And I don't think it is a balance. It is a balance. I don't think that for me, maybe I don't know, I can ask Wolf. I know that we have some access to things. I know that Wolf can kind of see, you know, who all's tuned in and from where and everything, but I don't know. I mean, I could see a number, you know, but that's like the people that are actually on kbear.net. But I don't know for sure how many people are listening via TuneIn or, you know, in other ways that I'm unaware of. So, I mean, for all I know, I could be having a lot more listeners than I realized. So either way, I'm just playing some jams. And I like when, you know, I do like when people come in the chat room and actually request stuff. I think requests are good. I think it's nice to be able to have that, because in a lot of ways that's a, you know, gone by era of radio. I mean, today's commercial radio, you know, you couldn't call in and, you know, have your song played the way you could, you know, when I was younger. You could actually call in and maybe, you know, you might get a busy tone, you know, a couple times, but then it'd be ringing and you'd be like, oh great, you know, and then you would, you know, say what you want to hear, but you weren't necessarily guaranteed it was going to come on. Whereas with KBHR, if there's a live DJ there, I mean, I think we're all pretty obliging, you know, it's like whatever you want to hear, we want to place what you want to hear. And I don't think there's a whole lot of that in the radio world anymore. So to me, that's one of the best parts about KBHR, is that you can go in there and be like, hey, you know what? I want to hear I hadn't heard this in a long time. This is what I want to hear. And before you know it, it's being played. I'll play it. I know Whit plays it. Wolf definitely takes requests. Jeff takes tons of requests every morning. And that's just something unheard of. You know, it really is.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, these days, if you were to like ask, you know, younger kids, or I mean, they probably wouldn't even know what a request was. You know, it's like, what do you mean? I can just play it on my iPod. I can just put it on my. What do you mean request? You know, request what? I have access to whatever I want to hear all the time. But not.
It's different. Like, you know, because you want people to experience that song with you. That's part of what makes music special, is you know, experiencing it with other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
sharing, for sure.
And so we do have access to everything, and it's the same with radio. now that almost anybody could do a radio show, and there's so many radio shows out there because of internet radio, we all have access to all these different shows. And so it's the same thing, but it's finding that, core group of weirdos that you can fit in with. Where you hit
that
the jackpot.
is crucial. That is key.
Ding, 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 ding.
You're like, hey, yay, I found my weirdos.
Yep.
That's definitely how I felt when I came upon KBHR. I mean, it was like, woohoo, weirdos like me, people you can make those silly jokes with, or have, just kind of bizarre things in common with, where you wouldn't, one of the things I love is, even though, we all have our own different tastes, but like, I also like to, pop a lot of old show tunes on there for Maurice, and there are people like me that, want to hear a show tune every now and then. There's certainly people who are not huge on musicals. I know Wolf's not a huge fan of show tunes, but, I feel like sometimes you gotta, pay a little, homage to the characters of, whether they're really your bag or not, just show a little love. It's kind of what I like to do with it, because there's certainly, even tunes where I'm kind of like, should I play this? I don't know. But then it's like, yeah, why not? It's totally Wayne, totally Shelley and Wayne. Throw it on there.
Yeah, it's a real mixed bag, but for somehow it just, you mix it up and it all seems to work. And I've never actually seen such a friendly vibe in a chat before. Yeah, I've never seen anybody have an argument in there, or, get like irritable with anybody in there or anything. It's like, wow, it's a whole different world in there.
It is a whole different world. We are lucky. We are lucky that way. We all get along. And I think that's also kind of the undertone of, Northern Exposure too, is how, there would be all these different characters, but they all appreciated each other for what they were. It's like, you may not be my bag, but I like you enough. I appreciate you for what you are. I may not want to live with you, but, you're my neighbor, whatever.
Yeah. So, for you, what do you think it was about Northern Exposure that really attracted you to it? That's almost to the point of obsession. Like the rest of us.
Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah. Well, it is, the quirkiness. I like how quirky it is. It's just when you think, you kind of got it figured out, something will happen and you'll be like, okay, didn't see that coming. It's just, I think there's just how everybody's allowed to kind of be their own person there. It's like they all come from different walks of life. It's like Ed's an orphan who, just kind of was found by a tree or by the river. And then Maggie, came from, upper middle class or whatever, Midwest, and like became a bush pilot in Alaska. And Ruth Ann, drove out and set up camp. And Maurice had, this vision of creating this town, even though the town was technically already there before he got there, but just they all come from different walks of life, but they all kind of longed for the same place and the same vibe and community that they have, and then they all found it together, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
I feel that way about my Sicilian community. It's like as soon as I found KBHR and I found Wolf and Chris and, just everybody, it was like, yep, this y'all are family. Y'all are home. This is good.
Are you originally from the Southwest?
I grew up in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and I lived in New Mexico for about 10 years, and now I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yes, I lived in that area. It's unique. It can be challenging to live, especially right in the city itself. But there's a few.
How long did you live here?
I lived in the area, let's see, from the time I was maybe 13 until I was like 18. Maybe like maybe about 7 years or so. Yeah. Yep. I went to high school outside of Philadelphia, and then I lived in Philadelphia itself and worked for a year before I went to college in New England. In the late 80s and early 90s, and England as well. I went to school in London too for a semester abroad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
no, I've only lived here 8 months, so it's still very new for me.
Yeah.
Quite an adjustment from the Southwest.
It's so different, so very, very different from the Southwest. I remember in the 80s when I moved from San Diego to outside Philadelphia, the kids in school would ask me at Christmas time, "Do you all celebrate Christmas in California?" And I said, "Yeah, we put our trees out on the beach and we dance around them like hippies." Yeah.
Right, because you wouldn't have Christmas because you don't have snow.
Right.
Because you can't have Christmas without snow.
Right.
Right. Well, there'd be no Christmas in Texas either. I mean,
yeah,
no Christmas in it. Yeah.
There's wet and dry in California.
Right.
Those are the two seasons there. And earthquake season is all the time.
Earthquake season is all the time.
It is.
Wow.
Anytime. I have memories of like earthquakes where we were driving down the road and we're listening to the radio, and then the radio would go like that, and then the telephone poles on the side of the road would start like moving back and forth, and then the road itself, which was flat, started buckling, and like a.
That sounds frightening.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
That sounds
pretty scary.
Terrifying. You feel like the earth is crumbling beneath you. That's so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Texas, where it's, kind of the start of like Tornado Alley, so I mean, I'm pretty familiar with like, okay, the sky is getting dark and kind of green and a little bit still, where should we go? Is this ditch good? Where do we go if there actually is a tornado? I remember tornadoes being a big fear, but that was our main natural disaster from where I'm from.
If you live in Oklahoma, for instance, it used to be you just had to worry about tornadoes. That was it. Now you get earthquakes and tornadoes. Like, you get both now. Right. Obviously from fracking. There's really no question
that's
about it.
Totally. They didn't really make sense for it to be anything else. They didn't used to have it. It didn't used to be like that not that long ago. Didn't take much to put two and two together.
Yeah. You don't hear that happening as much in Texas, so maybe they're maybe they're leaving Texas alone. They're getting all the oil from Texas, so but they're getting a lot of oil in Oklahoma as well, so Oklahoma's just fracked, I guess. Just fracked.
Yeah, pretty much. It sounds like it.
What are you gonna do?
It's got to be something. There's got to be something.
Do you think that it was also the native characters in Northern Exposure that interested you, being someone who lived in the Southwest for so long, for a good stretch?
I was pretty. Yeah, I mean, I was fascinated with. I was lucky enough actually to get to go to Alaska when I was 20 years old, on a trip with what was my high school boyfriend at the time. I mean, I wasn't in high school anymore, but he was a couple of years younger than me, so he still was. But his parents wanted to take him back there. He was born in Alaska, and we were both kind of obsessed with Alaska in our own way. So when we got, me through Northern Exposure and him from being born there and, hearing his parents tell stories and stuff. So when we got to go together, that was, an unreal, just amazing experience. It was, I couldn't stop. One of the things I could not stop doing, which was it just proved how little I had like really traveled or like left, the little tiny area basically that I kind of grown up in, was as soon as we got there, I remember we were staying at a pretty nice hotel the first night, I believe, and there was this huge globe in the center of the lobby, and I kept being like, I kept taking him over to the globe, being like, dude, we live here. We're up here. Like, this is like where we are, because it's just like, it was like, oh my gosh, we have traveled the globe, like essentially, like this is huge. Because from Texas to Alaska, that was certainly the, longest trip I'd ever been on, and everything was so different. And we went in the summertime, like most people do when you're not from there. And, it was like the sunlight all the time, the midnight sun, it's like 2:00 in the morning and it's bright outside. It's like a whole nother world. So I think just in general, all of, the whole idea of Alaska and everything that comes with that was just completely fascinating to me. Native culture and, everything. Like, I was obsessed. I'm sure I thought I was going to live in Alaska at some point, numerous times in my life, probably. Now I think I'm kind of dreaming of Iceland these days. I'm a real big fan of, can I just get a ticket to Iceland? But, Alaska would be great. I'd like to think that I could do it. I don't know if I'm quite tough enough. I think you got to be kind of, Edna Hancock tough, and I'm not quite that level yet. I'd like to be one day.
Yeah, wait till you survive a few more Philly winters, right? Before you.
Right, exactly. Get them under my belt. Go in increments, baby steps. Let's not leap quite that far.
Because they can be brutal too. The Philly winter. Woo.
That's what I've heard. I got
Boston winter though. The Boston winter will kick your butt. That is brutal.
Well, I got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
That'll work. That'll work. Sometimes you need to throw yourself in it to see what happens, and
yeah,
I do that pretty well. So toughen me up.
When I was a kid, I had friends that went up to Alaska and worked like the fisheries or the canneries up in Alaska, just so that they could get up there, just to see what it was like up there.
Right.
But that's some hard work.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some rough.
Yeah.
For sure. I've known a couple of people that have done that as well. And it ain't no walk in the park. It ain't no dilly dally, and you got to be
on it.
The whole thing. Yeah. Exactly. There's no time there's no, what I mean? There's no really, like, a lot of room for mistakes. When you're talking Alaska, every little thing matters, otherwise you could be not have a foot, not have a hand,
and then
any number of things.
You smell like fish. Then you get to smell like fish.
All the time. All the time.
You have cats following you down the street. Here.
That's hilarious.
See, I did it by being a student. So I got to travel to London and go to school there at the same. I was 19, but you were 20. So that's a great time to discover places so far away. You're still young enough to where you can handle something really different, but you're old enough to hopefully not get, too carried away. Still have appreciation for where you come from.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. I was 24 when I moved to New Mexico, and that was the first time I really lived anywhere other than Texas. And I pretty much graduated college and left. It was a couple of months of sorting through, all my accumulated sentimental relics from the past, and then being like, all right, save this, get rid of this, and then I was off, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to Albuquerque, and I'd never even been to Albuquerque before, and a lot of my family was like, what do you can't just pack up, and it's like, no, you can. actually. you totally can do that. You can just back up and go. That's what it's about.
Watch me do it.
That's what I did, and it worked out fantastically for me. I mean, I love New Mexico. I mean, part of me will always consider myself New Mexican, even though I wasn't born there. I wasn't raised there. I just fell totally, completely in love with it. So.
Yeah, it is amazing how different it is from Texas, and they're right next to each other pretty much,
Oh, it's completely different. It's a whole nother country. It's a whole other place. It really is.
And then even just different parts of Texas. I mean, Texas is the size of whole countries. You could fit a few countries in there. In some places, it's huge.
Yeah, you can. It is. Oh, it is ginormous. It is absolutely, yeah. And even in Texas, there are different places you can go in Texas where the dialect is completely different. I mean, you have a hard time understanding each other coming from one side of Texas to the other. I mean, I remember going to family reunions with some of my family in East Texas, and it was like, I mean, their accents seemed so southernly, sweetly thick. I had a hard time understanding them. And I've got a southern accent.
Yeah.
But East Texas is syrupy southern, It's a whole different thing.
Yeah. My whole family's from Louisiana, and I got relatives in Mississippi, and but a lot of actually all of them that are still alive moved to Texas after Katrina. Coincidentally. It's amazing how that happens. But it is very, very different. And the accents as well. I sometimes, because I've lived all over the country, I code switch. So if I'm talking to people, I'm in Virginia now, on the West Virginia border, so I'm talking to people that are more country, my accent will change just because I'm talking to them. And it's not like I'm trying to put anything on. Because I literally moved all over the place, I easily switch accents, and I'm not even thinking about it. And I started reading articles about it, and it's called code switching, and a lot of people do it, so I'm not as much of a freak as I thought I was. I'm not Madonna. Putting on an English accent.
I will have to look into that. That is. I mean, I feel like I do that a little bit, just depending on, some of my family members, just because sometimes you have to really be able to even understand what they say.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's like, I mean, I love my mom. My mom's got she can have a serious twang if she wants to, and sometimes just talking to my mom for like an hour, I'll get off the phone and I'll hear myself and be like, oh Lord,
yeah.
I sound really southern right now. And It's just, from an hour of talking to my mom. So that it can rub off on you for sure.
We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back for the second hour. Welcome back to the second hour of The Bridge with Kira. I'm your host, Kira Young, and tonight I'm talking to Carly Ree of KBHR, and her show is called Roots with Ree. Are you back with us?
I am still here.
Welcome back. So Thank you. We got a question that how did you come up with your name, Roots with Ree, from the chat room?
Oh, okay. Actually, it's my favorite episode of Northern Exposure is called Roots. And some of my favorite tunes from the show also came from that song. So when I was brainstorming with Wolf of what I might call my show, that was the one that really clicked. And he was like, I love it. And I was like, I think I do too. And that was that.
Very cool. So which episode is it? What happens in the episode?
Roots is it's in the third season. It's the one where Elaine comes back after she's left Joel and ran off with another guy, and then that guy ends up dying, and then it's when Bernard comes to give Chris his inheritance from his father, and Chris is thinking he should go to Africa and, explore history, and when Chris decides to become a person of color, and Elaine kind of and Joel rekindle, but then also realize, things aren't the same anymore.
Mm-hmm. So what was it about that episode that spoke so much to you, that made it your favorite?
Well, I'm super partial to Bernard. Bernard is probably my favorite, not cast member, but like recurring character on the show. And the ending scene of that show where Bernard is driving off in the Volvo on his way to Africa, and the Miriam Makeba Mbachini song comes on. So that's one of my favorite endings, and it's just I love that whole, and it's got the dream sequence, where that's actually a later one, but there's always different dreams, there is, because Chris is having Bernard's dream, but he thinks it's his, and so it's got a lot of good. I mean, it all has a lot of good dialogue and a lot of good scenes, but that one I played so much, it actually was scratched so bad on my DVD that I couldn't watch it for a long time.
Wow. Until
I got a new copy, because I'd watched it over and over so many times that it was like, oh no, I can't watch Roots. Like, the whole thing's messed up because I've watched it too many times.
We've talked about this episode, I think, in the chat room during Jeff's morning show. And I had speculated about what would happen if something like that was on TV. I think people would freak out. I don't think it would fly as much as it did back then, because we just didn't have as many sort of PC rules and things like that that we do now.
Right. The minds have they're starting to close up on us. I think there was during that time where the minds were a little more open, a little more free. It was like, oh, well, maybe, I mean, kind of in this Maurice kind of, I don't really understand it, but, I respect it kind of thing, you know, whereas now it's kind of more like, I don't understand it and I don't respect it.
Right.
Because I don't understand it.
Right.
So
there's the thing about the show too is that it's because it's from a certain time for all of us as well that we connect to it the way that we do. So, I mean, it's not just the show itself. It's where we were in our lives when the show was on.
Absolutely.
That's another level to it. And so, on the one hand, the whole PC phenomena, it was good in the beginning because people considered, well, maybe I shouldn't say something like that if it's going to be upsetting to somebody else. Like that was a revelation.
Right.
Whereas now it seems like people are most concerned about the stuff that actually doesn't matter, and they're not concerned about the stuff that is really super offensive. It's really weird. It's weird how things have changed.
Yeah, it's gotten to this like focusing on the little thing, like, not seeing the forest for the trees kind of thing. It's like everybody's so blinded by all the trees they can't see the big picture anymore, which is unfortunate because there was this time, at least for, obviously quite a few of us, that, that like sort of minds were opening, and it was like, oh, okay, like there's this whole other path I didn't even see before. And now it's more like, okay, there's so many paths, I'm blinded by these, like I can't even see, the big, like I said, the big picture, because I'm so being like focused on, but all these different little paths. And it's like, no, let's, relax your eyes, like, just, breathe with me, calm down. It's okay. I know it can be overwhelming, but it's, I think it's, I don't know. There was something I saw the other day and I wish I could remember it. I'm unfortunately at a loss for the words of it, but it had that sentiment, that was kind of like, we're so overwhelmed and, kind of blinded by like all these little things, but it's because, like, I don't know, it's kind of like the ants in the ocean theory thing, where it's like, it's so big, it's so vast, but you're just, you can't see all the little grains of sand and the wave, like you need to be able to
focus one
pull
thing
yourself
at a
away
time.
from all the, right, pull yourself away from the little details and take in the, the big picture. So.
While you were talking, I was thinking that maybe, how I use the word zen, like I'm going to get my zen on, or I don't watch TV because it destroys my zen. I don't watch, political debates because it destroys my zen. But in a way, you could really just substitute Cicely for zen. Like I'm going to get my Cicely on, like I'm going to get my center.
Right.
That's
a great one.
Cool attitude adjustment to get my Sicilian on, it won't make sense.
Yeah, and people know what you mean.
Yeah, the right people know what you mean. The weirdos from Tranquility Base. they're hip to it.
They do. They're totally hip to it. Just, that's a great way to describe Cicely, because, it's like I said, for me, it's like, Zen is a way cooler and better description than I use, but, for me, it's like my safe, happy place. Like, it's like, I know I'm going to be good in Cicely. Like, I know I'm going to be gold when I get home, and I'm tuned into KBHR, and I'm hanging out with, people listening to jams and chatting, and, I just, it's a good, happy, mellow, fun place, that I know I can be myself and I don't have to worry about, being too weird or too silly or.
And what people might not know about what's different about the KBHR chat room is that they're webcams. So you can turn your webcam on too if you want to add the visual to your experience, So you want to be like, I'm here,
yes, you can.
I'm having a good hair day, so I'm going to turn my camera on,
Exactly. I like that. Or like sometimes we did that. Was it on Whip Show? I think was the last time we had a hat party, because sometimes we get in there and we're like, I'm going to wear my hat today, and we throw on all our crazy hats. And it's just like, we're just going to have an impromptu hat party, because why not?
Yeah, so that's cute. And Wolf had mentioned on his show that he put a password up there, which is Cicely.
Mm-hmm.
And why can we be so free with this password is that you're really only going to want to go. The way that he described it is that the chat room is hosted by this different company, and a lot of people use these rooms that are hosted by this company, and they might see our room not knowing that it's like PG,
Right.
Or like has to do with KBHR and not whatever they're into. But so that's why you put a password on it. And that's why the password's open, because if you're coming through that portal through the KBHR site, then you're going to know that it's kind of PG in the chat room. So if beers and stuff are PG, in your world. So
right.
Yeah. So, but that's neat. I wish we had faster, better internet, or we would turn on a webcam. Sometimes I turn it on at my day job, just because I have, in the morning, just to say hi.
Yeah, that's nice. I think the webcams definitely add to the fun of it for sure. I don't. I tend to do it. Let's see. I do it probably Friday and Saturday nights. Normally is when I get on the webcam, and because by then it's like Wolf's got his sunglasses on, and it's a party because Wolf's wearing his sunglasses at night. That's always it's always a big party if Wolf's got his sunglasses on. So it's like, okay, let's all get on the webcam and wave and say hello and virtually clink our beers or whatever we're drinking, because Wolf, I know, likes to have a nice mug of beer, and I'm certainly not opposed. And there's plenty of ladies on there that sit back, have a glass of wine, tune in.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of kind of jazzy, sexy tunes that play sometimes too, and I think, dang, I should have got wine tonight.
Yeah. There you go.
Instead of drinking beer, this doesn't seem right. You can't drink beer to Ella Fitzgerald. Where's my glass of wine? So.
Okay, so we have a question. Let's see. From Matt W. Is Ree looking forward to new episodes, or are you concerned it won't live up to your expectations with the new episodes?
Well, I do think, it's a big task that's being taken on, but I mean, I believe that fortune favors the bold. So, I think Darren going after it, I don't really see how, like how he could destroy the beauty of it to me. What's in my heart in Cicely and Northern Exposure is always, it's not, like you can't remove it, you can't take it away, you can't diminish it, you can't make it less. So no harm in trying is the way I see it. And the fact that there's going to be so many of the original cast members potentially involved in it, I feel like that's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll get the music. They'll get the music right too, I'm sure.
I think a lot of those things are going to be taken into account. I think like I was saying with that, having those hundreds of people's, input and opinion was really just such an ingenious idea, because, it allows them, the writers and Darren and everybody involved in the project to really get into the mind of all of the fans. It's like we actually got to speak our mind about what we want to see and what our expectations are. And, even if it doesn't, hit the mark exactly, the fact is we have a target, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, we got to throw our bows and arrows, and there's actually a target there. It's not just in our mind, So even if, we don't hit the bullseye, we got to play, which is,
yeah,
that's just, that alone is so inspiring. I don't see how I could be disappointed.
And it's like seeing an old friend or a family member that you haven't seen for a long time, maybe 20 years, 10, 20 years. They're going to be different. It's going to be awkward a little bit, but then it's going to flow. It's because they're your blood and you just, you connect. But it is weird at first.
Exactly.
Because they're not like you remember them, and everything's different, but yet the same.
Right.
So there's going to be that. So I think if you go into it with knowing that's how it's going to be, then it's just going to be exciting to see what they do with it, in my opinion.
I agree.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I completely agree, because I think, there's like, it's like Shelley and Ed, they're not 18, they're not 21 anymore, it's like everything, but then there's going to be this whole kind of rebirth with it, because there's going to be all these new characters from all these old characters that we love, that it's, and you'll get to see, potentially, I would assume, certain traits or kind of characteristics or whatever from, those different characters, and see how they evolve and see how their kids evolve. And I just think, that's, in a lot of ways, that's kind of how life is, it's like I don't have kids, but I definitely have enough friends, that have kids, and I have, nieces and nephews and cousins and whatnot, and you can see, the influence from their parents and their, and their look and their, different mannerisms and stuff. And I think, being able to see that in the characters that we've grown to love in our hearts of, whatever new characters they're going to be bringing to the forefront of the new show we'll just be like, oh, who knows? Zed's got kids, maybe they have, long dark hair. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just have blue eyes. Maybe they,
right.
maybe they're totally into film, or maybe they're, and maybe, any number of things. There'll be, just little bits and pieces that will be, oh, okay, I see what, kind of where that came from, or, where they were going with that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. We'll see. We don't know. I guess we'll all find out once we actually get to stream the episodes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good thing. I really do. When you talk about kids, we showed Northern Exposure episodes to our son from the time he was a baby. And the first time he said the word moose, he said it pointing to the moose on Northern Exposure.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's
so he
cool.
knows all. He's 11, but he knows all the characters, and he's seen all the episodes like numerous times, and he knows when Daddy's got him playing that he's nesting, doing his thing.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty cute.
That's really, really cool. That really is. I mean, Val, one of our fans and KBHR listeners, fellow Sicilian. She, I think she raised her kids with Northern Exposure, and they, it's like embedded in them the way that the same way it would have been, or had my parents, watched it with me, where, I assume maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I was so engrossed in it. I was probably one of those kids that, sat so close to the TV screen, I was probably going to go blind. I'm not sure if my parents were there or not.
Yeah, because you were 11.
When Northern Exposure was on, I was like, huh?
You said you were 11 when it came out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
Wow. Yeah.
I was sucked in. I was all about it. Could not pull myself away. Although I think when I was young, I thought, I'm sure I had the biggest crush ever on Ed. I mean, I was like all Ed all the time. And then I'm sure I kind of, moved on to, Chris is cool and I could see why people find him attractive or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm just kind of like, oh, I love Holling, or, oh, I just find, Maurice so charming even in, his weird little ways. And, just you grow to have a different appreciation for different characters as you kind of grow with the show, even though, you've been rewatching the same show for 20 years. It's like sometimes I kind of feel like, oh, I'm just now noticing, certain aspects of things that I, of course, didn't notice when I was a kid, or I'll hear like a reference to a book or a poem or something that, I wasn't familiar with when I was younger, but now I'm like, oh, I know exactly what they're talking about, but it was completely went over my head when I was young. So
since you were pretty young when it came out, for you at that age, were those the first really developed gay characters that you saw? Because I don't remember any other sort of gay couples or anything on TV really at that time.
There really wasn't, and certainly developed. Yeah, I mean, the only association I had, with gay character outside of Ron and Eric was probably, Mr. Humphreys from Are You Being Served? Like that was that's certainly not,
right.
a developed character.
Right.
That's a sitcom. Kind of cheeky one-liners, I guess.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the terminology would be, but so yeah, I would say definitely Ron and Eric.
Yeah, they're
veterans.
They're veterans, and they were pretty not stereotypical characters that you were seeing. They were very developed.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, there weren't too many. I mean, other than Reese was pretty, and I mean, I suppose Joel to a certain extent were, stereotypical in terms of, what you would assume, just knowing occupation and, age and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like any of the other characters were really, necessarily stereotypical. But
Yeah.
I definitely feel like Joel and Maurice were, but not really any other character on the show. I feel like, I mean, Bernard wasn't stereotypical. I didn't feel like Ruth Ann was stereotypical. I mean, I didn't feel like you really got to see hardly any older ladies, that weren't like maids or grandmas that were around for like, came for a hug or two, or maybe, to be like Sophia Petrillo, quippy, kind of witty. But other than that, there really wasn't a lot of, even now to watch the episode where Ruth Ann's son comes to town, and it's the son she's not fond of, as opposed to the one she, just thinks hung the moon. I mean, I don't know if you could really get away with that kind of thing either. I mean, speaking of politically correct, I mean, do you think you could have like an episode where, a mother's blatantly kind of like, I love you, but I don't really like you. It's kind of exactly how Ruth Ann was to Matthew.
Right, and the whole thing about I don't know what I did wrong with him. He's like successful Wall Street guy,
Right.
Where did I go wrong?
Where did I go wrong?
Oh, so endearing. The opposite, and the way that Ed understands that line, like. Yeah, he's there like. Yeah, he's
sympathetic to her, right? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I feel for you. That sucks. Like just kind of, completely opposite of what so many more mainstream shows would be. It'd be like that would be the prize son, the one that's successful and.
Yep.
Flies up to Alaska to visit his mom,
There definitely was no Native characters on TV until that show, and there really hasn't been since that show. Not
that I can think of at all.
Yeah, I mean we have now we have on Netflix, and it used to be on A&E. What's the show about the sheriff out in Wyoming or Montana?
Oh, just Longmire?
Longmire.
That everybody's talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had that, and then we had, this is recently, but still, even though the friendships are very deep in that show, and after they went from A&E to Netflix, they could get deeper into some of the Native stuff. I noticed that as well. Like they had on there, when they moved to Netflix, they had a ceremony for a woman who was raped, and it was pretty realistic. And I was really surprised that they showed it and that they went that deep into it, calling spirit back and stuff like that. So we have that, but it's still not the same type of, it's still a law enforcement show, so that makes the conflict pretty central, which it is in all stories pretty much, but there's just something different about Northern Exposure, the way they handle conflict, and in that show was just different. And then we had another show that was on cable, Sundance Channel, called The Red Road. And that was it. That's pretty much been it for Native characters. But I do hear that Natives are going to get a whole channel. This is the rumblings in Indian country right now, is that there's going to be a whole channel on cable for Natives. But we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it.
Right, believe it when you see it. But I mean, that's, if there's talk about it, that's certainly promising. I mean, that's at least,
Yeah.
That's good news for sure. I wonder where it's going to be, because they were doing a lot of filming in New Mexico when I lived in New Mexico. I mean, like all kinds of movies and TV shows, and I mean, I would think that there would be a lot of opportunity. I would think there to do that, because there are quite a lot of reservations in New Mexico. I know, and I know there was a lot of people that I knew, even that, had, kind of bit pieces here and there, and certain movies and television shows that were filmed in New Mexico that, called for Native.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are, I think they actually film Longmire up in Montana as well.
Montana. Oh, Montana. I've always wanted to go to Montana. It sounds beautiful. I've seen some really amazing pictures, but I have not made it up there. That's another place I'd like to go visit. Have you been to Montana?
I don't think that I have. No, I've been to a lot of places in America, lived in a lot of places, but I think Montana's one place that I haven't actually been to. Yeah, I'd like to go there. And Alaska as well. I've never been there, so that would be great.
Oh, it's an absolute must. It really is. I look forward to getting to go back at some point. I actually want to, now that there was a Sicilian that was posting a lot of pictures of Juneau on Club NX on Facebook. And I had never, when I went to Alaska, we flew into Anchorage, and I believe we drove up to Fairbanks, but I didn't actually get to see Juneau. And I thought Juneau was breathtaking. And it's kind of out in its own little peninsula out there. I didn't realize, how much, I guess, it still would look like Alaska to a certain extent, because it was kind of jutted off on its own. I didn't really see, maybe I didn't envision, as it to be as mountainous and breathtaking as the pictures were.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
But that whole country, I mean, it's got to be.
Got to be beautiful up there. And I want to experience the extended daylight. I want to see what that's like, what it does to you.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be be sun silly, like Joel Midnight Sun. Yeah, because it does seem like you would get really pumped up, because you feel like you have this endless energy, because you're getting, so much serotonin, so much light and vitamin D, and your body's just like, yes, yes, yes. But I don't know if I could handle the crash of it. Like once it actually did, like once your body just kind of go, okay, I've had enough, like that. I think recovering from that would be the hard part for sure.
Yes.
But the creativity that your brain would produce having that much daylight would be intense. I think that would be worth it.
Yeah, I want to do it. They have cruises that go around up there in the summer.
They definitely do.
Alaskan cruises.
I always forget about that. Alaskan cruises.
So when I win the lottery, I'm going on an Alaskan cruise, y'all.
Going on an Alaskan cruise.
That would be fun, wouldn't it be? Like if we could get a whole boat to ourselves, just a bunch of K-Bear weirdos on an Alaskan cruise.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. We would have way too much fun.
We'd have our own DJs. For the music.
That is true. That is true. That is true. K-Bear 24/7 broadcasting from the sea, basically.
From the sea. Pirate radio.
From the sea. Pirate radio, totally. Oh, Wolf would be beside himself. He dreams about pirate radio.
Does he?
I think so.
I consider what I'm doing a little bit pirate radio-y, since I'm doing it from my truck.
Right.
Not from the comfort of my home.
Yeah.
There's this thing called the digital divide, and I live on the other side of it. Unless you live in a rural area where your only choice for internet is satellite, you don't understand what the digital divide really is. And I think there's probably a reason why our voices are not supposed to be heard. Mainly because you might have a different outlook on things than people who live in towns and cities. And, just like natives are 1% of the population, the smaller groups don't have as much of a say in things.
Right.
And so when the government and the corporations get together and they decide who gets sacrificed on this digital divide line, it's always rural America every time, because there's not enough of us to protest that injustice on our wallets. But we find ways around it. Just like back in the day when pirate radio started, not everybody could have access to broadcasting like we have now. There's just different things controlling access now to getting your voice out there.
That is true.
So, but you have no problem. I'm sure you have really good internet and living in the city.
I do have pretty good internet living in the city. I finally got some quality internet. I was just kind of hot-spotting it off the phone for a while, but that really wasn't doing much for my broadcasting capabilities.
Yeah.
But I finally got the fancy high speed going around here, since I am definitely within city limits. So
what are some of the
take advantage of the opportunity?
What are some of the areas in Philly that you've gotten to know since you've been there that you like?
Oh, I wish I knew. I haven't really got to explore too much. I arrived here in the winter. So, it took I got here at the end of January. So, it took a while just for me to kind of, let everything melt before I decided I'd go out exploring. And then, it wasn't too long after that until I got a job. And then, as soon as you get a job, you kind of fall into routine and, going back and forth to work, and not a lot of time to get out and peruse too often. But, there's definitely, we've hit up a couple of parks, and Chef Adam takes me to some good food spots. In case you didn't know, Chef Adam is my boyfriend, Ariel Levine, and we live together, and we are both Northern Exposure freaks. He has his own Facebook page, and that is actually, in fact, how we met, was through our love of Northern Exposures. So still, new. We've known each other for a couple of years now, but we've only been living together for a few months, but so far so good. And, he's exposing me to Philadelphia. He's lived here, not his entire life, but a good chunk of it. So he's introducing me to cheesesteak and all the fancy brunch places, because I love brunch. I'm a big fan of brunch, pretty much. I can pretty much brunch all day. Or I like to go to places that serve breakfast all day. I'm a big fan. If you serve breakfast all day, I am there 100%. That's really all I need to hear. So we do go. We eat well, and we watch Northern Exposure and talk Northern Exposure, and it's good life, good living.
Good. That sounds really good. I haven't been back to Philly for a long time, and I know the cheesesteak places are still there, but I wonder about the little, sort of hole in the wall type spots that were there when I was there. There were places I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if those might have turned it. I don't know how hole in the wall they are, but some of them, there's definitely hole in the wall places that we've been to too. But I feel like there's a big, the food truck industry is really picked up. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of food trucks here, and you can't walk down too many blocks without running into, somebody selling something delicious out of a food truck. And that's kind of spanning America right now. A lot of places that couldn't, afford the restaurants doing the food truck gig, and it's fairly profitable from what I understand. And I would say it's very active in Philadelphia nowadays. I don't know if it was then, but if they were hole in the wall places and the rent went sky high, they may be, having some amazing food truck business these days, because there are a lot of them, and they are good. Interesting. Yeah, I have a little fantasy of having a food truck where I do, like fusion type foods with traditional native foods and other types of foods, and that I invent a gluten-free fry bread that's even better than the original, and take Indian country by storm with gluten-free fry bread. That's my fantasy.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, because we could do a food truck at Powwows. That would be fun. That could get us around. Could be good times. Yeah, and we could grow the food, and then,
I was gonna say, because you grow all that food. So you can't beat that. That's gold. That's money. That's amazing.
Have my fry bread.
I wish I had
acorn flour. Or something like that, something just mixed up. There is a chef right now who's doing some fusion, doing a native, he's trying to start a native food restaurant, and he's got a Kickstarter account right now. He's called the Sous Chef, but, it's Sue is SIOUX, a sous chef.
Nice.
So he's you can look that up if you want to support somebody doing native food. Uh-oh. What happened? We lost contact with each other. Took me a minute to figure out what had happened, but I'm sitting in my truck getting kind of sweaty, and there's like a back piece to my laptop that got stuck on my sweaty legs, and when I moved the laptop, it actually pulled the battery out. Some weird thing. So then when I got the computer back running again, it started updating. So we couldn't continue our conversation, and it ended there. But it certainly was a pleasure talking to Miss Roots with Ree. I hope you're able to catch her show on Monday nights over on kbear.net, kbhr.net. Also, please check out my sponsor, which is Done Right, buffalosauce.com, DUNN, right, buffalosauce.com.